How is it possible that an event that occurred 60 years ago when I was only 5 years old changed my life forever? Shalom, my friends. Before I get into this video, I want to thank the newest patron of the Rabbi study. Will, your support is appreciated more than I can tell you. 60 years ago this week, November 22nd, 1963, I was sitting in my kindergarten classroom right near the window. I remember hearing the principal's voice over the loudspeaker with his customary words, "Attention please, attention please." And then President John F. Kennedy has been shot in Dallas. I knew who President Kennedy was, and I knew he had been shot. I did not understand a single thing more than that, not at that point. School was dismissed early, and when I got home, my father was home from work along with my mother. That was when my world began to change in ways I could and could not understand. I learned that President Kennedy had not only been shot, but that he had been killed. He died. But this was my very first encounter with death, and it was beyond my ability to comprehend. People got shot in cartoons all the time. Nothing bad happened to them. But my parents told me that President Kennedy would never be on television again. That I understood. But that he was dead, that was inexplicable. That he was inside the box we saw on TV covered with an American flag, why not open it and let him out? I remember the answer. They can't. He's gone forever. But I still didn't get it. I never knew before that day that grown-ups cried. And it still breaks my heart remembering how I learned that painful lesson. My father was weeping and pounding his fist on our refrigerator, shouting over and over, "Why? Why? Why?" That was when I realized that what had happened to President Kennedy was really, really bad, and that a bad person had done it on purpose. That was my first encounter with evil. I thought all grown-ups were like my parents, good, kind, loving, honest, everything that was good. But they're not all that way. And I experienced hatred, true hatred that day when it was announced that Oswald had killed the president and had been captured. I was mad at him for taking President Kennedy away, whom I liked to watch on television. But I hated Oswald for making my parents cry. To this day, I believe my passionate hatred of all that is evil was born on November 22nd, 1963. To this very day, one of my top 3 favorite Bible verses is Psalm 97, verse 10. Those who love the Lord hate evil. We watched together as Oswald was shot on live television. I thought it was a good thing, a 5-year-old's sense of justice. It was my grandfather who sat with me and explained that Jack Ruby did not have the right to take the law into his own hands, and that we had a way to make sure that Oswald would have been punished. But I remember that something still felt right about him ending up in a box, just like President Kennedy. My mother did tell me that there was a part of President Kennedy that was not in the box we saw, not in the casket. She said it was called his soul, and it was with God. I'm now glad she told me that, but at the time it meant nothing. It was also something beyond my comprehension. And all I wanted to know was what part of President Kennedy was his soul, meaning what part of his body was now with God. And my mother did her best to answer, but there was no way to explain it that I would have understood at the age of 5. Given the clarity of my memories, it's hard to believe that 60 years have passed since that day. I've learned a lot, and I understand a lot more than I did 60 years ago, including about President Kennedy. Despite his many gifts, he was also morally flawed. But there's Kennedy the man, and there's Kennedy the icon. And the death of that icon seems to me to have begun an era in America from which we have not yet emerged. Today, all too many 5-year-olds understand violence in a way that was simply not part of my sheltered world in 1963. Every childhood deserves a period of shelter. Can we ever go back? I don't know. But as Viktor Frankl wrote, there are only 2 races of people, the decent and the indecent. And it's my fervent hope and prayer that the former will ultimately triumph over the latter. My friends, if you like the work we're doing on this channel, and you would like to support our efforts, please consider becoming a patron for only $3 a month at patreon.com/The Rabbi Study, all one word. I'll put a link in the description box below the video for anyone who wants to use it. Of course, we are very grateful for our current patrons whose names appear on the screen right now. And finally, you can support us by giving us that all-important YouTube thumbs up, and by subscribing to the channel at no cost to you. To subscribe, simply click on my face right over here. Or if you'd rather, watch my last video by clicking on its icon right over there. As ever, until next time, Shabbat Shalom.